Hi guys, welcome to Let's Talk EFL. I'm James.
And I'm Millie.
And today we're going to be locking in our Week 4 League 1 predictions.
Before we get into that, shall we check our predictions from last week?
Yeah, let's go.
So James, you got 4 correct results, 0 correct scores, which
right.
gives you 8 points.
About right.
And I got 4 correct results and 2 correct scores, which gives me 18 points.
Well done.
So I think I might have beaten you there. Anyway, should we get into it?
Let's go.
First up, we've got Blackpool versus Wycombe.
Yeah, it was a really disappointing result for Blackpool. They fell asleep at the back. They were really complacent. I mean, it could have been 5-4 to Cambridge. And for Wycombe, a good win. Soaked up the pressure and gained momentum after Rotherham's offside goal. I think Blackpool are going to have a change of fortune, and I'm going to say Blackpool 2, Wycombe 1.
Yeah, Blackpool were 4-1 up against Cambridge at one point. So for that game to finish 4-4 is a bit unbelievable. But one positive, it's Blackpool's first point of the season. And it was a win that was definitely coming for Wycombe after such a difficult start to the season for them. I think they played well in those first 2 games and just had some tough opponents. I think this is going to be Blackpool 2, Wycombe 3. Next up, we have Rotherham versus Huddersfield. What are you going for?
For Rotherham, it was a very disappointing result against Wycombe. They had more chances, but just weren't clinical enough. And I think they fell apart after that offside goal. And for Huddersfield, 3 points again. But I think they'll be disappointed that they didn't really control the game. They didn't put it to bed. And I think they were lucky not to concede some of Shrewsbury's chances. I am, however, going to say Rotherham 0, Huddersfield 2.
Rotherham is still yet to score a goal this season. And I think that just tells you everything you need to know. And it was business as usual for Huddersfield and their promotion campaign. 100% record, but that last game wasn't as comfortable as they would have liked it to be. However, I am also going to say Rotherham 0, Huddersfield 2. On to the 3 o'clock kickoffs for Saturday. First up, it's Birmingham versus Wigan. What are you going for?
Well, it wasn't the best performance from Birmingham versus Leyton Orient. They gave away a sloppy goal and it was pretty poor defending, but they did get the 3 points in the end. And for Wigan, in my opinion, they were lucky to get the 3 points, but I guess it was just their day to have some luck. I think it's going to be a tough one for both teams. I'm going to go for Birmingham 1, Wigan 1.
Yeah, Birmingham's game against Leyton Orient was pretty even, but I think it was just bad defending all round for all the goals scored in that game. Birmingham won't care though, that's 2 wins in a row for them. And as you said, James, I think Wigan were quite lucky to go away with 3 points against Crawley. Effectively, they took one of their chances and it was just enough. I do think Crawley were the better team, but that is Wigan's first win of the season. I'm going to go for Birmingham 2, Wigan 1. Up next, it's Bolton versus Exeter.
Well, Bolton were pretty dire at the back against Charlton. They were also really tame in front of goal. I think it was a really poor result for them. And for Exeter, great goal, but they played musical statues with their defence and conceded 2 sloppy goals from Peterborough. However, their goalkeeper Joe Whitworth made a good save. I think Bolton are going to win 3-1.
Yeah, Bolton played all the football, but just came up against a clinical and informed Charlton. And it was a very lively start to the game for Exeter. Reece Cole with a lovely strike to put them ahead, but they came up against a more clinical Peterborough. I'm going to go for Bolton 1, Exeter 0. Next up, it's Bristol Rovers versus Cambridge.
Yeah, it was a poor performance from Bristol Rovers, but they did come up against a very strong Stockport side. And I think it was lucky for them that they didn't concede more. And for Cambridge, I think it was a poor 59 minutes for them, but a great comeback. I truly believe they could have won it against Blackpool. I'm going to go for Bristol Rovers 0, Cambridge United 1.
Yeah, as you said, James, Bristol Rovers were lucky. It was only 2-0. They had 1 or 2 decent chances, but they were beaten by the better team. And Cambridge showed great character to draw level after being 4-1 down. However, they may be wondering how they got themselves in that position to begin with. I'm going to go for Bristol Rovers 0, Cambridge 0, ball draw. Up next is Crawley versus Barnsley.
Yeah, I think on another day, it would have been Crawley's day. I think it was a bit of a blip, but they needed to be more clinical. And for Barnsley, they started off well against Northampton, but must be really disappointed to concede 2 goals after going 2-0 up. I think it may be the same story for Barnsley this week. I'm going to go for Crawley 2, Barnsley 2.
Yeah, Crawley had more chances and were the better team against Wigan. They'll be gutted to have lost that after their start to the season. And it's been a very mixed start for Barnsley this season so far. They'll be disappointed to only get a point after going 2-0 up against Northampton. I'm going to go for Crawley 2, Barnsley 1. Next up, it's Mansfield versus Stockport.
Yeah, it wasn't a good performance from Mansfield against Lincoln. I think Nigel Clough will probably want a better performance next game, but tough opponents. And for Stockport, another great win. Great goals, especially the first one. And I believe it could have been more. I'm going to go for Mansfield 1, Stockport 3.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't Mansfield's day against Lincoln. They had a lot of the ball, but they just didn't do much with it. And Stockport fans will be over the moon with their start to the season. Another great performance from them. They're looking dangerous going forward, and they have a 100% record. So with that said, I'm going to say Mansfield 0, Stockport 3. Up next, it's Northampton versus Burton. What are you going for?
I think Northampton will be disappointed going 2-0 down the manner they did, but they did capitalise on Barnsley's sleepy defending and managed to nick a point. And for Burton against Stevenage, 0-0, but I think it was a poor result for them. At least they got a point though. But I'm going to go for a Northampton win. I'm going to say Northampton 2, Burton 0.
It's also been a mixed start to the season for Northampton. Great point away from home against Barnsley, especially after going 2-0 down. And Burton were lucky to get a point against Stevenage. They had no shots on target in that game, which, based on the start of their season, is a bit unusual for them. I'm going to say Northampton 2, Burton 1. Up next, it's Peterborough versus Wrexham.
I think it was a really good performance from Peterborough against Exeter. Another 3 points away from home. Well played. And for Wrexham, a great win. The racecourse will continue to be a fortress this season. It was a great 3 points against a very tough side. I do, however, think that Peterborough will win 2-0.
It was a good win away for Peterborough against Exeter. That's 2 on the bounce now. They were the more creative side, and they could have had 3 if it weren't for Exeter's goalkeeper saving that penalty. And it was another fantastic 3 points for Wrexham, and against a very strong side in Reading. I think they dispatched them quite easily, actually. I agree, I think they may rely quite a bit on their home form this season. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I'm going to say Peterborough 3, Wrexham 3. Up next, it's Reading versus Charlton.
Yeah, it wasn't a good day at the office for Reading against Wrexham. They'll definitely want to put that result behind them and move on fast. And for Charlton, a great win. Embarrassed Bolton with their shoddy defending, and the goals were well taken. But I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game and quite a boring game. I'm going to go for Reading 1, Charlton 1.
Reading were nowhere to be seen against Wrexham. They hit the crossbar towards the end, but the damage had already been done by that point, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. And it was another excellent win for Charlton, and they've still got their 100% record. I think they just made their chances count against Bolton. I agree that I think this is going to be a low scoring game. I think actually even lower than what you've said. I'm going to go for Reading 0, Charlton 1. Up next, it's Shrewsbury versus Leyton Orient. What are you going for?
Well, I thought Shrewsbury were a bit unlucky against Huddersfield. They played decent at times, and maybe they could have even got a draw. And for Leyton Orient, I think it was a poor but even game. Sloppy defending for the goals against Birmingham, and just not as clinical or lucky as Birmingham were. I might be a little bit controversial in saying this, but I'm going to go for Shrewsbury 2, Leyton Orient 1.
Shrewsbury had some decent chances against Huddersfield and might actually be a bit disappointed they came away empty-handed. Results-wise, a bit of a worrying start for Shrewsbury. And I think Leyton Orient will be a bit disappointed with the 2 goals they conceded against Birmingham. Performance-wise, I think it was quite an even game, which is a positive against the league favourites. I also think they'll be lifted by their result midweek in the Carabao Cup. And I think this is going to be Shrewsbury 0, Leyton Orient 2. Last but not least, it's Stevenage versus Lincoln. What are you going for?
I think Stevenage should have probably won their game against Burton, but Burton's keeper was kept busy. They just needed to be more clinical. And for Lincoln, despite having 28% possession, that was hard to say, I think they took their chances quite well, and eventually they came out on top. But I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to say Desmond 2-2.
Yeah, I don't think Stevenage can grumble with the point away from home, especially after a defeat in their game before. But I do think they probably edged it slightly. And for Lincoln, what a turn up that was. An excellent way to bounce back after a defeat at home to Barnsley. I am going to go for Stevenage 1, Lincoln 1, so I'm also going for the draw. So that's our League 1 Week 4 predictions locked in. Let us know in the comments if you agree with us. Also, make sure you lock in your predictions. While you're there, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next one, which is League 2 Week 4 predictions. See you then.
See ya.